What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. My name is Mike. I'm here with Jamal Chandler, and we have a very special guest, Mr. Henry Schwartz from CBOE. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
It's great to see this guy. We worked together briefly at CBOE. He had you had this incredible software, but I always loved it. I told you how much I loved it, and it was pretty awesome. You came to CBOE, and we were working together for a little bit, and then I came here, and I've been with you ever since. But great to see this dude. Just saw him at the conference too at the OIC.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was. Lots going on, man. We got a market. We've been talking to different people all morning about what we've been seeing more recently. Obviously, there was a huge flush on Friday. Yeah. Markets bounced back yesterday, but not quite really. And we're kind of seeing that a little bit again today. You are the purveyor of option volume, I would say. I mean, you talk, man. You put together, first of all, the state of the industry stuff you put together is incredible. I thought you just did another presentation recently about that.
It seems like every few weeks I'm updating the slides and going somewhere else to do it. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's just the volume has been astronomical. You've laid out how zero DTE volume has just exploded and what's going on overall. Do you think that that's something that's going to like stay that way, or do you think people eventually push that back? They go to 3 to 6 months. Like, what do you think? Is that sustainable?
I mean, I think it is sustainable. It's been a few years now. I mean, we filled in the Tuesdays and Thursdays were added in SPX back in 2022, and it's basically been no looking back. And so now we see basically about 2/3 of the SPX volume is in the 0 day, right? And options expire the same day they're traded. It's similar in SPY. NDX, it's even higher. And, I think what's happened is, this wasn't possible 10, 15 years ago. Right, like the technology couldn't keep up with it. Right, the speed of the changes in your Greeks and your gamma and everything else. But traders and whether they're retail or institutional have an appetite for kind of precision, right, and capital efficiency and 0 day options. If you have a view. And if your view is here's what the market's going to do today, or we're already up 1% and I'm comfortable kind of overriding any further gains, so that I'm going to give those away, but I'm taking some premium. Short dated options are the perfect instrument. So, and they're so active and so efficient that it's almost crazy when you look at kind of the bid offer spread in these things. It's effectively nothing. It's a penny if it's in an ETF, it's a nickel or a dime if it's in SPX. And then, recently, basically, in January, we started adding short dated options in some of the single stocks, the super liquid ones, things like Tesla, Nvidia, Apple. And right now, those are still just Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I expect we'll see Tuesday, Thursday sooner rather than later.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's been a wild situation with the 0 days and how popular they've become. But I think also it kind of plays into the PDT rule going away too. I think that just adds so much more liquidity to these markets. And I think that even outside of SPX, to your point with the single name stocks, I think that could be one of the drivers that gets those 0 days every single day sooner than later, for sure.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I've done these state of the industry, presentations for literally 10, I think 15 years at this point. And, we'd always be looking at, well, what are we going to get to a record? What's going to drive us to a record level, right? Right now we're on the 6th straight year of record volume. I mean, we traded 108 million contracts on Friday. So you go back to before COVID and 20 million contracts was a busy day. And now we're doing, we're doing over 100 million. I think that's the 3rd or 4th day we've seen over 100 million contracts. So, in terms of where's the volume growth going to be, we're already looking at growth about 13 or 14% this year over last year. And it really is the short dated options that are driving it. And then, add in some of the IPOs we're going to see, over the next month or two. Yeah. And there's no chance that things are going to slow down.
What's the deal on that? We always talk about that. I mean, we know there's going to be options fairly quickly after the SpaceX IPO. What's the actual rule on that? I've always wondered.
So it's really interesting, right? Because, option traders want options as soon as possible for something that's liquid. But there are SEC rules on, basically it has to do with you need a few days of stock trading. You need a certain number of holders, a certain amount of float. For SpaceX specifically, I actually put a post on LinkedIn about this, and I used AI to make the poster with a rocket on it, of course. And it came out great on the first try, which is, tells you something about AI. And it's kind of, the fact that SpaceX is, I guess now they're really kind of saying, well, we're an AI company, and we also go space. But we with the way that it looks now, based on the filings, so that if everything has to go off, as planned, but it'll price Thursday night. The stock will start trading on Friday. We should see options on Tuesday morning, and that's the fastest possible. They're using an accelerated listing process because of the fact that it's such a high cap name, and because basically they can already verify that there's going to be enough individual holders. That's kind of one of the requirements.
One of the things I'm looking forward to, and I was talking to Mike about this last week, was your state of the industry when just like I don't know if it'll be what kind of duration, but I'm curious to see what changes after PDT has happened. Like if there's going to be a big change in volume near term or what the deal is. You think there will be?
I mean, you guys were kind of instrumental in kind of helping to get that rule changed, right? It was very antiquated. There, people had been, grumbling about it for a long time. And when it comes to options specifically, right, there was a big negative side effect with the short dated options because people were avoiding closing positions because they didn't want to hit their count. So, in terms of small accounts being able to trade without kind of worrying about that restriction, right? I mean, there's still risk control based on margin and everything else. I do think we're going to continue to see. I mean, we already see. We've seen kind of a pickup in volume from the retail, brokerage community. That's been a pretty steady trend anyway, and this just really adds a little bit of fuel to that. In that people, if they open an account with $10,000, they don't start getting these warnings, which can be kind of scary when you're still starting to figure things out and you get a warning from your broker about something that was always a little bit hard to understand anyway. So absolutely. I mean, I talk to retail traders, and the fact that a lot of traders will open up accounts at multiple brokers too because they'd like to use different platforms. They like to kind of see what the experience is like, and this way, if you have an amount and you've basically got a few small accounts, you just don't quite have to worry about, oh geez, I've already traded 4 times today. What's this mean for my count?
Yeah, I think all of these things combined just creates this super liquid, super fun trading environment to be in here. But yeah, I think the SpaceX IPO, that's great insight, and I think the earlier the better for us because we're going to be wanting to trade those options as well. But again, it's going to be one of those things where the options market comes out. The markets will probably be, a little illiquid at first, but after a day or two, I'm sure they'll pick up some liquidity. Bid-ask spreads will narrow. So we compared it to like IBIT, same story. Like IBIT, the Bitcoin ETF was kind of wide at first, but we're like, this is going to be the next thing that everybody trades, and sure enough.
Well, yeah, you're going to see a lot of interest. And I actually went back and looked at, I did a query last night to figure out what was the most successful first day launch. And Meta, which I believe in 2012, traded about 330,000 contracts. Exactly, on its first day. And that was a record. And, in trying to, we talk about prediction markets and all these things. Like, if there was a prediction market on how much option volume would trade in SpaceX on day one, I think it'd be a wild bet. Because if Facebook traded, Meta traded, around 300,000 contracts at the time, that was about 2% of the daily volume. Now we see Nvidia and Tesla, averaging around 3 million contracts a day. We could see, SpaceX, you're right, it probably will start out a little bit choppy, but there's so much attention on it right now. And, I think you're going to have natural buyers and sellers. We could see a couple million contracts that first day. It would not surprise me if we saw over 2 million contracts.
Yeah.
Day one.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's talking about it like it's a liquidity event. Speaking of, I mean, we've been talking about how much Skew has been to the upside, particularly in the tech names for a while. VIX was fairly low. That clearly kind of led to something on Friday. Is there still kind of this upside skew for the most part that you're seeing? And how long do you think that kind of thing can persist, compared to historical past?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, I've kind of focused on this for a long time, and I have a query that goes back, even through COVID, right? And you look at the number of names where you had this phenomena, basically, where the calls were more expensive than the puts, right? That upside kink to the skew, which is a speculative, configuration. If you think about it in terms of the distribution, it basically just tells you the upside tail is more likely than the downside tail as far as the options are pricing in the returns. During COVID, we hit kind of highs around 40 to 45% of the single stocks had that upside skew. And it turned out to be incredibly accurate, right? The market just exploded higher. So we've seen it creeping up really over the last month or two as well. And the real big question, I was talking with my colleague Mandy Zhu about this, the question is, okay, is this another kind of COVID moment where you're like, well, the market is pricing in an upside move? Or is this, the irrational exuberance kind of thing where we're like, I don't know, this seems awfully dicey. And, there's names you can look at and go, well, some of these names are just true speculators. People coming in a frenzy, trying to buy calls, bidding them up, taking advantage of the, capital efficiency, the leverage that's basically kind of, what you can do in the options instead of the stock. Even though Friday was definitely a correction, right? I mean, as far as corrections go recently, it wasn't that big a move, but it certainly surprised people. It was an outsized move given where vol has been. It did not knock that much wind out of these upside calls. So this continues to kind of be a theme. I mean, all the conferences we go to, right? People really bang on the point that U.S. markets are the destination for like global capital. And, CBOE, we have overnight trading hours. We have some overseas markets. When we go and talk to people about options trading, they basically say, well, we like to trade in the U.S., even though they're based in Asia, or even though they're based in Europe. And that's because of things like the IPOs we're seeing here. I mean, these are global companies, but they're listed in the U.S. They trade in the U.S. where just the markets are the most efficient and things are just easiest. And I don't really see anything slowing that down. Even though you look at kind of the tear that equities have been on, for the last few years, even 2022 we had a down year, but basically we've just been kind of grinding higher and grinding higher. And so going into Friday was really interesting because I think we had 9 straight up days in a row in SPX. VIX got down to 12 something. We had all this upside skew. That was kind of a moment where you're like, wow, this market is really kind of leaning all in. And that's where you get these kind of like, oh, crap. Occasionally we get like a downside shock, or people just, the truth is, people had made a lot of money. And so taking a little bit of money off the table made some sense. And then we still have a lot of headline risk in terms of geopolitical issues.
Yeah, we really do. And I know we got to let you go, but I'm just curious. I just had to point this out. You say you don't really watch basketball, but you watched the Knicks game last night. There's no way you cannot watch the Knicks game right now, right? No, you're a native New Yorker.
I've lived in New York for about 30 years. It is. I actually got off a train when the first game was going on at Madison Square Garden, Penn Station. The game was not there, but they had watch parties. It was crazy town. It was New York City was buzzing, and my daughter sent me a picture of a Knicks donut that she had for breakfast. It's actually really fun. And last night's game was a wild one to watch. It was close, and we talk about kind of prediction markets and this kind of overlap we're starting to get in terms of, honestly, people, sports betting and financial risk tolerance, it's all just starting to interweave a little bit. And so, I was trading contracts on the Knicks as the game was going on. I mean, I'll admit it. It makes it more fun to me.
It's only natural. Well, Mr. Henry Schwartz, appreciate you coming on. Thanks as always. And we'll see if they can secure the win. I think they're going to ship it.
I think they're going.
I think they will. But appreciate your time.
Good to see you, man.
Thanks, guys. Yep. All right. Good to see you.